Hello and welcome to the animation video for week 17, Thursday. Okay, so today we have a cognitive drawing exercise, of course. This one here, we're drawing some of the neck muscles. And we're going to have a short video today. As I said on Tuesday, my focus for the rest of the semester is really to get you guys to get as far as you can in your animation project. And as I listed here, what's expected for your final animation project, these are my expectations. Earlier in the week, I had said an animation of 1 minute or more would be great, but I added this text. But if it ends up, you only get 30 seconds worth of animation done, I will understand. So in other words, there's no set time length that you have to turn in. Like I said, 10 seconds is definitely too short. Should be able to do something longer than 10 seconds. But, if it's a minute, that's great. If it's less than a minute, it's still great. Whatever you can get done, just go ahead and finish it off and turn it in for me. And then, here I talk about, I talked about this in the video on Tuesday, but you can reread this if you need more instructions about what you're turning in. Okay, and then I just wanted to show you one more technique today that can be used for animation. And this kind of goes along the lines of pose-to-pose animation. If you recall, there's frame-to-frame animation that we learned about in the 12 Principles of Animation. That's the kind of animation you guys are mostly doing, which is where you make a drawing in one frame, and then the next frame you make the same drawing, but it's moved slightly. And so you're doing frame-by-frame animation. Now, pose-to-pose, just as a reminder, is where the character moves quickly from one pose to the next. So it's not this smooth sort of animation. It's a little more jumpy, but it has sort of a different effect. Now, what I wanted to show you today was how you can create a pose-to-pose animation using pre-created art. Okay, so for example, there's a website here called Vecteezy that I use a lot. Excuse me. And this has stock art in it. And so, for example, if I wanted to find like a little image to use, I could type in some search keywords here or whatever, and I've searched for this one already, so I know it's here. But in this search, looking for a little fairy here, I found a fairy that's in multiple poses, and the poses all look like they would kind of work with each other. Like she would be in this pose, and she would move to that one, then that, then that, then that, then that, right? So I downloaded this and opened it up in Adobe Illustrator because this is vector art. And what I did was I deleted that yellow background. And then what I wanted to do was get each one of these drawings into Adobe Animate as its own separate drawing, right? Now, there's two ways I could have done it. I could have grabbed each character here and deselected the border around her for that section, and then I could have just copied and pasted this into a new Illustrator file and exported it as like a PNG file, right? So in Illustrator, you can go export as, and then you could export that as a PNG, right? But you'd have to cut and paste it into its own file, so it would just be that. Now, the other thing that you could do is you could copy this, and this is the way I chose to do it. You can simply copy it from Illustrator and then go into Photoshop, and you can see I did it right there. But in Photoshop, after you copy it, it copies it to the clipboard, and then you go ahead and you go into Photoshop and you just hit File, New, and Create, and it makes an empty document the size of whatever's on the clipboard, which is this. And so then all you have to do is edit, paste, and then hit OK, and then just hit this little checkbox here. And so now you have the image, which was in Illustrator, a vector piece of art. Now it's pixel art, and then you could just save it. We could just save this as, fairy, let's see, 1, and save it as like a PNG file so it has a transparent background, right? So you would just hit save. Now I've already saved it already, so I'm not going to, but like I said, you could use either one of those processes. You could, and I'll show you the Illustrator version. So in Illustrator, we might copy her. We might make a new document. and hit create. Illustrator seems to be a little pokey today. And then, of course, we could paste this in. Wow, she's ginormous. I had no idea that this girl was so big. So, okay, yeah. So, but you can see like all the steps that I'm having to do. And of course, my computer's being super slow too, right? And this is just a big pain in the butt. I mean, you know, I can make it work, and it's great, you know. Um, and there's my file, right? And now I can export this as a ping, and that will work great. You know, I could bring it into Adobe Animate with that. Or if I want to maintain this as vector art, I could export it, let's see, as, and I believe that in the export as, there's going to be an option for a .swf file, which is the Flash format. So if you exported this as an SWF file, you could easily import it. Let's see, so ping is one option, and then Flash, SWF, right? So let's just call this fairy1.swf. Okay, save it on the desktop. We use all the defaults, right? Okay, now there's advantages and disadvantages to going the ping route or the vector route. In the ping route, you know, you're pretty much turning everything into a graphic and locking it in a place that's not going to change its look, but it's easy to work with inside of Photoshop. If you go the vector route, everything is still vector art, which means you can still easily manipulate everything inside of Adobe Animate, so it gives you some more options there. But let's go over to Adobe Animate and see what we've got. So what I did was I took all 6 poses of the fairy character. I used that process of copying them in Illustrator, creating new files in Photoshop, and pasting them in, and then saving them as ping files. So I ended up with like 6 different ping files of this character, right? And what I did was I just pasted them on different layers. So here's the first one. There's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth, right? Now, we can see what it looks like, you know, this compared to the SWF. So like, if I want to import maybe to the library, and then I go to the desktop and I look for that fairy1.swf, there it is. Ooh, look at that. It's not even going to let me import this. What a, boy, that sucks. I had to click options and then enable all files. Okay, and it's still not letting me. Oh, there you go. Okay, open. Okay, so here's fairy1.swf, and if I drag that on here, theoretically, if I drag it on here, it's funny, nothing seems to be working. Okay, let's try from up here. If I drag it on here, oh, nothing's happening. Okay, so that's pretty weird. Let me make a whole new layer, and let me go a little further down the timeline where there's nothing. So I'll insert a blank keyframe and go here. All right, now here it is, and I'm dragging it onto here, and oh, there it is. It's just like the tiniest little thing. I'm not sure why it got so incredibly small, but anyway, there it is. And like I said, the nice thing about this is it's vector. So that means you can, you know, go in here and work with aspects of this that you normally couldn't with the pixel art, right? So, you know, depending on whatever your cup of tea is, if you like working with vectors, you like working with pixels, you can work with this girl right here. can see if I like keep double clicking on her, I can get to different areas. Like I could edit her wings or edit her hair or whatever. And that's one of the advantages of things like the vector art. Okay, but I don't really need her to be in here. I don't really need that vector art. I don't need this layer. I'm going to remove it because I've already got my pixel art in there, my transparent GIFs, or I mean pings, and I've got her in the 6 different poses. Now, what I can do here is I can turn on my loop so that this animation will just loop between these 6 frames, and then I can modify the document, and I can set it to be something like a frame rate of 1.5 frames per second or something like that. And then when I hit play, I get this pose-to-pose animation. Now, granted, this is a very specific style of animation, and you could always change the timing of this. It could happen faster, which would make it look a little smoother, or it could happen slower, which would make it look even more static. Let's just try one of those two. Let's try the faster version. I wonder if we can do just 0.5 seconds. Looks like it took it. Let's see. Play. Whoa. Looks like it's doing more like 5 seconds instead of 0.5. Wow. That's like super slow, so I don't really know what's going on there. It says 0.5. Let's just do 1 because I don't know what the heck it's thinking. All right, let's do that. Yeah, so that's slightly quicker than the 1.5 we had before. Anyway, I'll stop that right there. So you can use pre-created vector art to create stock animations like this that will enhance your original animations that you do, and it could be characters like this, or it could even be things like soccer balls flying by, or cars driving by, or planes, whatever you need. And of course, if you wanted to, you're welcome to draw the in-betweens, the animations between specific poses, to make it look smoother and a little less jerky, right? Now, some of the resources they have on sites like Vecteezy, if you go in here and you type something like sprites, which is a term that's often used for animated characters, you can find all these little walk cycles, right? Like you could get this guy right here and download him, and you can see it's six phase walk cycle here, as opposed to the 8 or 9 that we did. But you could just copy each one of these guys and put him into Adobe Animate, in the same position, 1 frame each, and then you'd have this walk cycle. And then if you wanted to use that, you could use that as a guide for your own walk cycle that you would make. You could change that into your own character, but use the poses. But there's other cycles in here too. There's other characters. There's a female character, and she's jumping, right? So we have all these things that are done in games. So we've got jumping, walking. Here's one where the character's falling down. Here they're ducking. Let's see if there's any others. So we got another jump. Here's a kicking and punching. So in other words, if you found yourself in a position where you were working on a game or something, and you had to take a character and animate them into all these poses, you could download this stuff for free and use it as, bring it in kind of like I was showing you, and use it to build as a template to build your own characters doing all these actions. And in fact, you can see that some of these they're even set up to be like games. This would be the backdrop of your game, and then this would be things you would do with this little bear guy, like have him fall down. I'm not sure what this crazy stuff is he's doing here, but then there would be obviously jumping and other things that he would do to get past all those little islands. Here's an example of the bear jumping, right? Okay, so as I said, it's a short video today. I just wanted to to show you some new techniques, some additional techniques you can use to round out your animation skill set. Remember to work on your final animation and get that in by Monday the 18th. As I said earlier, whatever you do will be great, will be fine. Do the best you can, have fun doing it. The time limit is neither here nor there. It's just really how much you can get done. I would love it if you could get 30 seconds to a minute done, but if you end up getting 24 seconds done, that's great. Whatever you do, I would love to see it. And if you have any problems or issues creating it, let me know. Okay, so I hope you guys have fun this weekend working on this and other things, and I will touch base with you again next week. Thanks, and have a good weekend.